Whiskey Creek series is a little bit different than those suspense titles. There's a lot of drama and stuff in it as well, but it's basically like a small town version of Friends, the popular TV series. You know, it features a group of men and women that have grown up together and are still very close and know a great deal about each other's lives, and so it's kind of how they interact and impact each other's lives. Whiskey Creek isn't based on one single town, but it's based on a series of towns. In gold country in California, where gold was discovered back in the 1800s, you had these little mining developments that started up and turned in these little towns. And they have a lot of, they're very, distinctive, and they have a certain feel to them, and they're very atmospheric, and it's almost like stepping back in time. So I love them. I love to visit them and go antiquing. And so there's a certain feel to them, but they're not all identical. The redemption story appeals to me because it is such a universal theme. I think that it appeals to a lot of readers as well. I think when we read about somebody overcoming something that they've done wrong, overcoming feelings of guilt and being able to atone, you get sort of to atone for whatever you've done wrong at the same time, or at least it gives you hope that there is the opportunity to change, to get past mistakes, to grow beyond them, to still prove yourself, a good person. So I think that has an appeal to everybody because it's such a human, foible that we do things wrong and then we live to regret them, and we don't like that feeling. It's a negative feeling. We want to overcome that. So showing that people can come back from tremendous challenges or big mistakes is, something that is cathartic. If I were to cast myself as a character in Whiskey Creek, I would probably be Gail DeMarco. She's sort of a no-nonsense, business-minded girl, but she's also a bit of a plain Jane. And the reason why I would pick her is because she lands the biggest movie star in Hollywood in this bad boy that she basically reforms. And so it's sort of everybody's Cinderella story. Cinderella stories really appealed to me, and so I think it would be fun to be Gail. What I would change, I guess, maybe not be so plain. But then the story wouldn't quite work as well. I think the hero has to get to know her on a different level than just how attractive she is. He really falls for who she is, which makes it a much richer read. So.
I've never been there, but it's very romantic. Yeah, the whole idea.
I'm not sure that I would have figured out that writing was my calling without a difficult time that we went through. It turned out that it was sort of the silver lining that I was able to find my path. I caught my daycare provider drugging my children with cough syrup to get them to sleep all day while I worked as a loan officer, and allowed her to watch soap operas. And so, of course, when I found that, feeling guilt for, letting my children get this terrible stuff in their system that they shouldn't have, I quit my job to stay home with them. But we were going through a very difficult time financially because my husband had started a new business and things weren't picking up quite as we had planned. So I needed to do something to help, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And so I was searching, and I thought maybe, I'm a good typist. I thought I could maybe start a typing service and do resumes or something. And then I thought, well, how do you market that? This is back when the internet was just, brand new, and it didn't quite have the possibilities that it has now. And so I was still searching when I was reading a really good book. It happened to be a book my sister gave me by Jude Devereux, A Knight in Shining Armor, and it just carried me away emotionally from a time that was trying. And I thought, when I finished it, I loved it so much. I thought, I wonder if I could do this. And so as soon as that thought crossed my mind, different ideas began to percolate. And of course, at first I wanted to do a historical romance, probably because that dealt with a lot of, historical romance as a time travel. I didn't know much about diabetes before my son was diagnosed. He was 5, and that was back in 2005. So once I learned, how it was going to affect him and how many other people suffered from it, I really wanted to fight back. So I thought, well, I would try, doing a breakfast or a brunch, or I had all these ideas. And then I started thinking one night when I went to this fundraiser for the school, they had this silent auction, and I'm thinking, you know what? Wonder why you couldn't do this online. So that first year I raised only about $34,000, but you have to understand that to me that was a huge amount. I mean, I'd gone to these other fundraisers where maybe they'd raised 10 and gone home going, Ted, how can we do this? And so that actually tripled the highest one I had been to. So I thought, okay, this is gonna work. And so I worked harder the next year and we doubled, and I worked harder the next year and we doubled again. And so it's really grown quickly. And that I think I owe a lot to, the support of my fans who come out and support it, but also fellow authors, and even those in the publishing industry who have offered different things that are in high demand, like the chance to get your manuscript read by Harlequin, for instance. And that is always something people can really justify spending money on, because it's sort of, they get advance their career, and at the same time this money goes for a good cause. So it was a win-win, and I think that that's also what has fueled the success of it. And so we've raised over $2 million so far, which when I first started out in my dreams, I would think, what if, I could raise $1 million? That would be like huge. And then to be sitting here thinking, it's been $2 million. It's been very rewarding and exciting for me.